Coming up, Microsoft 365 prices go up, but is there a cheaper alternative that still works? And why is Gregg Hayes shouting at us?
You're listening to Double Tap, your daily accessible technology show. Now, here's your hosts, Steven Scott and Shaun Priest.
Hello. Welcome to another episode of Double Tap. I am Steven Scott. Who are you?
I am Shaun Priest. Hello. That gets me every time you say it.
It's nice to be back here doing this. And today we've got a great conversation coming up with a good friend of ours, Gregg Hayes. You might remember Gregg talked to us recently about driverless cars, the Waymo cars, of course, which he's been testing out in Phoenix, Arizona. Waymo, of course, in operation there. And I know, he is. And of course, the Tesla taxi as well. We talked about that when it came out.
He's our self-driving car correspondent, I like to refer to Gregg as.
Yeah, but not today, he's not, because he wants to shout at us, basically. He wants to shout at us for things we've said, and apparently we're wrong. He's not the only one, by the way. There's a queue of people who want to come on this show and shout at us for things we've said that apparently we're wrong about.
And we probably are wrong, by the way. You're more than welcome to come on and tell us we're wrong. We love it. And
absolutely.
I would say not as much you as me, Gregg, has an issue with today.
Nah, do you know, listen, I'd normally happily throw you under a bus.
Thank you.
But today, no, I've got to say, I think today, no, I'm going to
You're never guiding me again, I'll tell you that much.
Well, I walked into a pole the last time. I'll never forget that. I think you still get bruises from that.
Dear.
But no, I think it's kind of fairly spread today, if I'm honest, because he wants to talk about thermostats. You were saying yours is inaccessible to an extent, but it's not really the thermostat, it's the routines and setting things up to do what you want it to do. So you're having issues. Gregg has an answer to that. Also, AI PCs, not only has he got opinion on it, he's bought one. So I'm kind of pleased to finally talk to someone who's bought one. It's like this secret society that's going on out there. It's like, who's buying these things? Because no one's talking about them. All I hear is specs. I hear about, specifications about them.
We hear the hype.
I hear the hype.
Yeah, we hear the marketing. And of course, it's different for us. We can't just go to a mainstream review because, how does it work with assistive software?
That's right.
What are we talking about there? It's difficult information to get. So that's going to be interesting from Gregg.
Yeah, and it might go against the grain of some other reviews I've heard. So we shall hear. But listen, if you've bought an AI PC, I'd love to hear your thoughts. And what I mean by that is bought one with what's called a Snapdragon X processor in there. Could be an X Plus or an X Elite. That is the new ARM version of hardware that's inside these Windows machines. What?
Jargon. You're blinding me with tech speak now. ARM processors, Snapdragons. What are you talking about?
It's Game of Thrones over here, isn't it? Never watched this. I have no idea if that's a real thing or not. I know there's a dragon in there somewhere. But yeah, look, if you've bought one of those new machines that isn't an Intel or an AMD, unless you've bought a MediaTek processor, in which case you've just wasted your money. But ultimately, this new processor is kind of like Apple's equivalent. Well, it is Apple's equivalent to silicon chips they've brought into the Macs. Which is having a big impact on power and performance and all of that. Or is it? That's the question. So look, if you've bought one, if you've decided to dip your toe in, get in touch with us. We'll give you the contact details again a little bit later, and you can tell us your thoughts. But I want to talk about Microsoft today before we get Gregg on, because I think there's a bit of confusion out there, and no surprise. Microsoft have decided for the first time in 12 years, according to Microsoft, they say this. I don't know if that's entirely true, but they say that for the first time in 12 years, they're raising their prices for the Microsoft 365 service. Now, it used to be called Office 365.
Confusing, yes.
Yep. Well, it was less confusing when it was called Office 365. Now it's called Office. No, it's not. It's called Microsoft 365, which is a bit more confusing, because is that part of your Microsoft account? Is that how you log into your computer? Is that the same thing as your... I'm very confused by it all. But basically, this is what gives you access to the Office suite. So Microsoft Word and Outlook and Excel and PowerPoint and all those kind of things. And it's a paid-for subscription. You'll remember, of course, the days, when you'd have a mate with a DVD writer who'd, burn you a CD.
I don't know what he's talking about.
And, it scrawled in black ink on the front.
Product key.
Office 23, I'll never forget it. Well, it wasn't Office, it was Office 13. I can't remember what the number was actually now I think back.
Nor me.
But yeah, I always remember there was a disc that did the rounds, If you wanted to install Office, you had the disc.
Don't know. No, never done it.
Can't do that anymore. Don't
know what you're talking
it's
about.
all subscription models. And of course, that is partly to cut down on the amount of piracy that was going on. And it was for a long time. Now you have to pay for a subscription. And we're kind of looking into this before we came on, because I kind of, to my own head, I hear these things online sometimes where I see things on Facebook, I see things on other platforms, and I hear people say, there's like a free version, or there's a one-time buy version of Microsoft Office, like you could buy in the old days, right? If you didn't know the guy with the CD, you had to go and buy it. And if you bought it, you paid one price, and that was it. And then if there was a new version that came out, I mean, look, I'm old enough to remember buying the Office Mac on DVD.
Wow.
Which was, if you think Office is bad, anybody who wants to complain to me about Office in today's world needs to go and play with the Office Mac version. It was dreadful. That was the first time Microsoft brought the Office apps to the Mac. But anyway, of course, nowadays you don't go out and buy a DVD. You don't buy a one-time subscription or one-time payment. You have to subscribe to it. And they're raising the prices. So $3 US is the increase in pricing. And of course, that's going to have an impact on a lot of people who are deciding to use it or not. And it's taking the pricing in the US, it's taking it from $6.99 per month up to $9.99 a month. In Canada, the pricing has gone up a little bit. It's obviously difference in dollars, so it's gone up to $11.50 per month. At least that's what I'm reading here. I'm going to just double check that as we're talking.
That's strange. 50 is strange. It's usually always 99 cents at the end.
Well, it's the conversion, isn't it? It's the conversion that always throws it.
Yes.
But yeah, it's going to go up by $3 essentially. So, just be aware of that. And essentially what we're paying for, we're paying for AI. We're paying for AI features, Copilot to come in. That is clearly what the increase is all about, because they're going to be adding the AI functionality to apps like Word and Outlook and all the rest. And you, dear listener, are going to pay for it.
Now, that's a little bit cynical, I would say. I mean, you could just argue it's a coincidence.
Or factually correct. How about that?
Well, the price hike has come in just as Copilot is integrated into Office 365. You could say that's just coincidental, but obviously it probably isn't. I think that I've seen quite a bit of concern about this. I think it's just because of the amount of the price rise. I mean, because I think actually Office 365 is, I think I was paying around £7 over here in the UK, was perfectly reasonable.
£6. It was £6 in the UK, $7 in the US. Yeah.
Yeah,
and
something like that. Close
the
enough.
Pricing, I can just confirm to you here, the Microsoft 365 Personal is going to be $11.50 per month, or you can pay it $115 per year. If you want the family subscription, that's $14.50 Canadian, or $145 per year for the family edition of it. So that is the new pricing coming into force.
Now, what are you actually paying for? Let me ask you this. How often do you use Office apps, such as Word, Excel, PowerPoint, or anything like that?
Never.
Me either. Now, I like to have Word there available, because if someone sends me a document or whatever, I like to be able to open it easily. But I haven't used Word in the longest time, other than to read a document and close it down again.
That's right, yeah.
I honestly don't...
You're lucky if you can edit it, if you can get out of protected view.
Yeah,
whenever you open one up.
Oh, that is... when I haven't used it in a long time and that comes up, it's like, how do I get out of that? But I have no idea, from an accessibility point of view, how Office is now. I assume it's okay. But I'm paying for Office 365. I'm paying mainly for OneDrive. You get 1 terabyte of cloud storage, which I use a lot for swapping files between my computers here, from desktop to desktop through OneDrive, and it's very good. I honestly don't know what I'm paying for though, but it was at that amount I was thinking, honestly, I barely notice it. That's that sort of price. I know.
Yes.
Some people
you're
may.
right.
I get that, but it's one of those throwaway subscriptions. But as soon as it goes up to, $10, $15 a month, then I start to think, well, do I really need it? So it is slightly confusing. And we were talking, when we were looking into this, do you get Outlook for free when you install Windows, or do you need to have a subscription? Now, obviously, when I sign into my Windows, when I'm setting up Windows on a new laptop or whatever it may be, I sign in using my Microsoft account, and I already have an Office 365 subscription, so I'm already signed into that already. But if you don't, can you use Outlook for free, or do you need a subscription?
You see,
it's confusing.
It is very confusing, and it's even more confusing if you use it in the business world because it requires a whole other set of Office. It's got a different version of Office. You have to go off and download. Even Teams has a different version. I mean, they may have merged them now, but it used to be, it may still be the case that you have like a version that's personal, and then there's a version which is for business. And you have to make sure you've got the right one before you go into the Teams meeting, or you very quickly scrambling around trying to download the right one. It's not easy, this whole system, and it's very confusing. I think ultimately you do need to have a subscription. But the question is what that subscription is. So look, this increase, there's no doubt that this is to include AI. And I'll tell you why I know that for sure. Because if you look, and actually what I did was I tried to cancel my subscription just to see what the options would be. And it said there are a couple of options available to you. You can remain on the existing price for your Office or Microsoft 365 subscription, but you will not get the AI features, the Copilot Pro, or Copilot, I should say, features in the apps. Now, this is different to Copilot on the PC itself. That's another
I'm confused.
thing.
Okay.
But if you want the Copilot features in Word or Outlook or Excel, then essentially that is what you're paying that extra for. You can roll it back. You can roll it back to the plan you're already on. You don't have to pay the extra, but you will lose the AI features. If they don't mean anything to you, you don't care about them, you don't use them, then I would say go and change your subscription. There's another... No,
sorry, so before you go on to the other tiers in the subscription model, are you automatically updated to having AI then? Surely you should stay on whatever your current subscription is and have the option to update to AI, not the other way around.
No. See, it doesn't seem to be working like that. The prices are going up for everybody, and you can choose to change your plan.
You need to roll back. Wow.
Essentially, yeah. Well, they do suggest it's a downgrade. And it would be, I guess, in their view. But they are leaving open. They are leaving open the option, though. So I think if people don't want to pay the extra and aren't using the AI, then it makes sense to go and change your subscription. I want to mention this other one, though, because this I spotted, which is kind of interesting. There's a Microsoft 365 Basic, which is $2 Canadian and also £2 and I guess $2 US a month. You can pay for it, $20 a year. And that will give you access to, it would appear, everything. Although I'm not entirely sure because it says, for example, it allows you to use Outlook on the web. Now, that doesn't sound right to me because surely you can use Outlook on your PC in that case.
Yeah.
And it does say it works with apps across Windows and Mac and other platforms. So it's not clear what you're getting, but it does seem like a very basic... It might be the ideal one for us, actually, if you think about it, because I don't necessarily use any of these other apps or features. So why would I be paying even $6 or $9 or what is it, $11.50 per month for features I don't even use?
It gets a little bit more complicated than that as well, because on the, let's say, the average plan, the medium plan, you can install Office on, is it up to 5 computers?
Yes.
So if you're, like I've got my main computer in here, I've got a laptop. So with one account, I can install Word on all of those, up to 5 machines. I'm assuming that's not the same on Basic, maybe just for one machine. Also, you lose, I think, is it 100 gig you can have up to
You get 100 gig of storage, yeah. But it doesn't say anything about being able to install the apps on the computer. That's not to say it can't do it, but there's no information to tell you that it can.
Yeah.
So I'm intrigued by all this. I am intrigued by all this, but it does seem there's options out there if you do want to reduce the cost. There is another question though. If your mail or your email is, say, a Google Mail account, or it's another type of email account that you've maybe had for years, do you even need Outlook? And if you don't need Outlook, what else is out there? Now, I'm thinking specifically of the PC here, because on the Mac you have the Mail account, and I would say, or the Mail app, and it is a very accessible app. It's a brilliant app. So you would have no qualms about being able to add any kind of email to the Mac without having to pay a subscription. You don't have to pay any extra on a Mac to get access to your email. What else is out there? Now, the one that jumps to mind is Thunderbird.
Of course, yeah.
Because that's the one I hear about. But I hear so many mixed reviews about this. This is, if there's ever an app of the week that we need to do, it's Thunderbird. But I can't do it because I haven't used it in years. Last time I used it, I think, was probably around 2008, honestly, and I hated it then. And I hear so many mixed reviews. I hear people saying it's brilliant. I hear people saying it's utterly awful. So
Last
look, if
time I
you're
used
using Thunderbird, then let me know, because I'd love to hear what your thoughts are.
Well, we've talked about this before. I mean, email should be the simplest app out there, right? But it's really tricky. I mean, accessibility is part of it, of course, but just finding one that works well. I used Thunderbird years ago, like you, so I'm not really qualified to talk about it now, but it worked fine. I loved the interface. It seemed very nice and simple, which is great for a screen reader. It just crashed a lot. But again, that was back in the day.
Interesting. Yeah, well, that's right. Well, everything crashed back in the day.
Well, that's right. Yeah, it may be absolutely fine now. So, and look, Windows comes with Windows Mail, or at least it used to. And that was okay. It was slightly weird to navigate, as was all the Windows Universal apps. But now if I type in Windows Mail into the Start menu, it starts Outlook. So again, I don't know, because I've got a subscription, if that's now Outlook is Windows Mail, or if Windows Mail is still there if you're not subscribed.
And is that Outlook Classic or Outlook New?
Oh, yeah, there's a...
It's such a mess.
It is, yeah. And look, if you're feeling confused by it, you're not alone, because I absolutely am confused by it.
I would hate to be starting out today with just a PC. In the sense, at least of my email, I would have no idea where to start.
Yeah.
You know, you think I want an email account. I mean, even just getting an email account these days. I mean, you know, you're kind of being pushed towards an Outlook.com or a Google Mail, because there really doesn't seem to be another way to do it. I mean, there are other ways to do it, but I'm thinking about, you know, someone who's coming to this brand new today. You know, maybe, I mean, a lot of people I know, for example, people who are older who never had an email address, but they did through work. And then they've now left work, they're retired, and now they're sitting down because I quite like email. What do I do? How do I get an email address? Because it's almost like just assumed that everyone just has one of these things. I mean, I have an email address, which is with the old me.com handle, which actually was because I'm so old, children.
Hold on, Grandad.
You know, I'm so old that I remember iCloud when it was called Mobile Me, which was early sort of iteration of iCloud. And that was where I got that me.com email address, which was great at the time. But...
it is better, though, to have a universal email address from either Outlook, Gmail, or even Yahoo, I suppose, if that's still going. Whatever it is, because I still know people that have their ISP, their internet provider's email account.
Yes.
And that isn't good. It ties you in. If you lose it, and there are some exceptions, but if you leave your internet provider, usually that email's gone.
That's right.
So it's best to have an Outlook or Gmail. I never use it on the web, though. I'm always using Outlook as the client. So, yeah, another email client would be cool.
So, you know, bottom line is the price increase is coming in, $3 extra US per month, and that will, of course, cascade differently to each country and territory. But that extra functionality, that extra money, I should say, brings you the functionality of AI across your apps, if that is something you desire. Now, there are many people out there who will work in various fields, or, you know, who will be writing, or, you know, whatever it might be doing, and they will love these tools. Personally, for me, couldn't care less. I honestly couldn't care less about it. For me, I would rather spend the money on, and it's weird, right? Because I'd rather spend money on ChatGPT, but I think it's a better product at the minute for what I want to do. And it's accessible. It works for me. I know you've had issues with ChatGPT recently, but I
with the web version, because I saved the website, ChatGPT website, as an app on my desktop in Edge, and I tried it the other day. It just wouldn't speak to me. Seemed totally inaccessible, which is such a shock, because it was amazing. Yeah, I know it wasn't a personality clash. Well, maybe AI has evolved. It doesn't like me.
Just said, I'm not talking to him. But hey, listen, you know, I want you to get in touch and tell me your thoughts on all of this, because, you know, what are you using for email? Is there an alternative out there? Have you found something that's really good? You might be using an app that you've used for years, you think everyone else knows about, and we don't. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. Get in touch in all the usual ways. Coming up next, we're going to be joined by Gregg Hayes. He is here to talk about, a range of things, mainly involving shouting at us. So stick around for that. But first, here's how you can get in touch with the show.
Get in touch with Double Tap. Email feedback at doubletaponair.com. Leave us a voicemail at 1-877-803-4567. And now you can send an audio or video message to us on WhatsApp. That number is 1-613-481-0144.
Okay, so time to talk about, a range of different things with our good friend Gregg Hayes. Gregg Hayes is back with us from Arizona.
Hello.
Hey!
How are you doing?
How are you doing, Gregg? You doing okay?
I'm doing great. Doing great. How are you?
I'm doing great. And, how's the old Waymo thing going? Because I hear lots of great things about Waymo. I saw them announcing lots of, I guess more of a roadmap for the future.
They're going to be changing.
Apparently,
they're going to change hardware. I didn't see what was said in CES, but they were using the one type of car, which was the in Jaguar, and now they're moving on to what's the other one?
Mercedes, BMW, Golf.
No, they're going down to Hyundai.
Tesla.
That would be funny. That would be funny.
That would work.
Yeah, so they're moving on to Hyundai. But I have some, follow-up news for you from the last time we did a Waymo interview.
Oh, please tell.
I tried to do a drive-through of Taco Bell.
Did you?
And it sort of did it, but not really.
Terrible.
It would bring me to Taco Bell, and it would wait for me outside. And so I could have a 2-part journey. Bring me to Taco Bell. It waits for me outside. I get my stuff, and then I can go back in and go home or wherever. But it wouldn't let me go through the drive-through, I'm afraid. Very upsetting.
It's funny, right? The other day I had to go and pick up some medication for my wife.
Yes.
And it's that thing where you ask the taxi driver to wait for you.
Yeah.
And it was taking a really long time.
Yeah.
And what's building up in my mind is the stress of going out, and he's either going to leave or he's going to have something to say about all of this, and I have got no control over it.
Yes.
And it was just going on and on and on, and I thought this is going to be horrendous. And it's one of those things that with a driverless car, that I mean, it sounds silly, but that's the kind of stress that would go away, right? Because you would maybe just get a notification saying, "Are you still, still coming out?" Yes.
The car wouldn't yell at me. That's right.
No, exactly.
Hang on, wait.
But it might have left. It might have.
It wouldn't have waited. Yes.
If I took too long, it would have left.
No, hang on. Can you tell it to wait though?
Yeah.
Is that a thing?
Yeah, it's a you create a 2-part journey, right? So you say, okay, first I want to go to Taco Bell, give it the address, and then I want to go home, and it'll wait for it. I don't remember how long, but I think it'll wait up to like 10 or 15 minutes for you to go get whatever you want, and then it'll go. So you don't have to. You just set it up that way, and it works. But
you did get, at the end of the day, you did get your food.
Yeah, I did. I got my Taco Bell, and I did that. I don't really like Taco Bell, but you kept talking about Taco Bell, so I felt like
I don't know if I even like Taco Bell. I just that's all I heard about was Taco Bell.
Taco restaurants are available.
Yeah,
probably.
But they're probably terrible. I don't know. So look, one of the things that I know you were keen to tell us about, because you did send in a very detailed message, and I don't think we ever got around to playing it on air, which is nothing unusual for Double Tap.
Sorry.
But we had got a message from you because Shaun had been talking, you can explain this better, Shaun, but you were talking about issues you've been having with your thermostat.
Yeah, well, I was saying that I was using Lady A. As you know, that is my smart speaker of choice to control my... Excuse me, Greg. Please, let me finish. Let me talk, sir. To control my Google Nest thermostat, which usually is fine, but I was having a few issues. And I'm kind of complaining that, I'm going to blame Google, made it more difficult to use on the Echo platform. And obviously I've got a Google smart speaker as well, and it works perfectly with that. But yeah, I was complaining a little bit. All I know is that Greg took umbrage with me.
Yeah. Well, first off, I would say if you're trying to control your home and do smart things with it, Lady A is not your best bet. Lady A works. Wow. She works well on, you can turn on the lights or turn on the thermostat with it, but it's not as good about doing more sophisticated automations. It has some. Well,
what are you suggesting? We use something like Siri?
Yes, I am.
What? Siri?
HomeKit.
Well, that was the other aspect. To it. Because you've just reminded me. I was trying to set it so when the house hit a certain temperature, it would turn on.
Yeah,
that's right. Guess what?
It does not work on the Echo system.
Guess what's built into those beautiful HomePods that you have, Shaun?
Yes, they do have a thermometer or thermostat. Yes, it has
a thermometer. And so you could very easily in HomeKit go in and create if the thermometer in the HomeKit hits whatever degrees you want, then turn on the heat. Or if it goes the other way, turn on the air conditioning. So it's all built into your HomePod. And making automations is really simple in HomeKit. So,
well, hang on, just to be very clear though, that the Lady A's, some of them anyway, do have a thermometer, I think, inside those as well. But I think the challenge is getting it to do what you want it to do, Shaun. That was the problem, wasn't it?
It doesn't work. I've been through the forums, I've been through support. So the way it currently works, which is broken, I'm going to say, if your house is under a certain temperature and then it warms up and reaches that temperature, then it will trigger a routine. If it falls below that temperature, it doesn't trigger again. So it's kind of pointless at the minute. I don't quite understand what it's for, but yeah, it's not implemented well. And it's been that way since the temperature sensors were introduced. So we're talking, I don't know, 5-6 years.
Yeah.
And it still hasn't, it's not able, everyone on the forums is saying, I've bought a whole system around this is my smart central heating. You know, the house hits a certain temperature and then it controls the heating. Yeah. It will not do that.
Now, well, and again, I just always like to throw in my Siri and HomeKit stuff. It would take me about 3 minutes to make that work. And so I was just suggesting that you might want to use a real operating system.
It'll be accessible as well, though. This is the other thing.
Right there.
Completely accessible. HomeKit is so accessible.
Is my mic on? Hello? Listen. No. I totally understand what you're saying. Shut up. I understand what you're saying. I forgot where I was going with this. No. What smart thermostat are you using? Because the Google Nest is not HomeKit compatible, at least before I get emails, the generation that I have. And I bought mine about 8 years ago.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm using Ecobee. I've used Honeywell before, and I believe the Nest, and just to address what you were trying to make everybody not send you emails about, some of the new Nests are Matter.
Yeah,
and so Matter works with both. So you could do, you could still control it with your Lady A if you just wanted to say, change the temperature to 30 C, or I don't know my Celsius.
No, I don't
well.
either. But yes.
Certainly don't want to do that. I'll tell you that.
that might be bad. I don't know. Is that good or bad?
That's very warm. That's extremely warm. 30 degrees. That's you'd be as well being in Arizona, I believe. Sounds about the temperature there.
So you could still use that, but you could do the automations in HomeKit, and it would work.
I see, and that was another thing. Let's talk about Matter for a second, because a couple of years ago, we were going Matter crazy. This is going to solve all these problems because it's almost like a universal translator between all these different platforms. Everything will be able to talk to everything else.
Yep.
It didn't work out like that because, as you mentioned, the latest generation of the Google Nest thermostat is Matter compatible.
Right.
I can't just simply do a software update to my version to introduce Matter. And I thought that was going to be the case, but it isn't.
It has happened on a number of products where you could go back. For instance, I had what's called the level lock bolt, which is a great little lock that you can't tell is a smart lock because it's you put it inside the door where the locking mechanism is, but the outside still looks the same. Anyway, it doesn't matter.
Oh.
It was Bluetooth. Slow as molasses, trying to get it to work because Bluetooth is not as fast. But now they turned on the Thread radio, which is just another kind of radio, like Wi-Fi or Bluetooth. Now they have Thread.
Why did I say Fred? I was thinking, what the voice,
like
voiceover
Thread.
TH.
Needle
Yes.
and
Oh, I see. Right. Okay. I want to listen to Fred radio now. That sounds quite good.
And they also turned.
You're listening to the radio.
Right, stop it. Yes.
So it has Thread over Matter, or Matter over Thread, however, either way. And so this was a 2 or 3 year old lock, and I just got the update last month, and now it's super fast because Thread is much faster, and it's great because I could use it. It's Matter, so again, I could use it in any of the operating systems, or home operating systems like Lady A or HomeKit. Home Assistant, all those things. So that's great.
The dream.
So the point, right. So some of them have done that, but that is the thing I wanted to say to you is you can't, and maybe you thought you could, but you can't expect that everything that you purchased 5 years ago is still is going to be updated to Matter.
Well,
Sorry.
Why can't I? Why
because The
Why?
manufacturers put money
from
into
the people who
new
brought
things.
you buy a new iPhone every year. But we'll happily try and rinse as much as we can out of this thermostat. This is the problem though, because isn't it? Because that kind of thing, like a thermostat, isn't something you would replace every year or every couple of years, because it involves quite a bit of work, or at least feels like it involves a lot of work.
You're so
It involves a boiler and a thing, and a guy has to come in with or a girl comes in with a screwdriver, and suddenly I get nervous. I think my entire house is going to explode.
Well, I did mine myself, but whatever. Yeah.
Wow. All right. Well, next time you're in Scotland,
attitude.
pop by.
No, so again, I had a Honeywell. That's actually the very first thing I did for home automation, is because I couldn't change the temperature. And so I wanted something to work on my phone. So I got the Honeywell, worked on the phone, and then I realized, hey, there's this neat thing called HomeKit. And I can use Siri to control it.
Fun fact for you, Greg, I used to work right next door to a Honeywell factory.
Okay.
Yes.
And was your first smart thermostat a Honeywell then, Steve?
No, I had never seen a Honeywell product in my life.
Oh, didn't you go what do they call it? Dumpster diving and see if you could pick one up?
Yeah.
Dumpster diving. There was no smart stuff when I was around. I was going to say I was really smart,
true.
but even that's not true.
So anyway, you're right about, I'm sorry, you're right about matter, about old things, but most new things, and the reason is exciting is most new things are coming out with matter. And so I can just go and buy new things.
Well, look, it's an important point, right? Because
all.
people are buying smart speakers, then they're looking to buy smart things.
Yeah.
And if you buy a product and you look on the back of the box, it will often tell you a range of different services it works with. It might say it works with Apple HomeKit or works with smart things from Samsung or whatever. And I think people get confused as to what on earth works with what.
Yes.
They might think that a product might not work with that particular device. I mean, I'm always looking at, if I'm buying something like a smart plug or something, does it work with Lady A? Does it work with... And then I think to myself, the next question, which is, can it work between devices? So like, can I have a smart... I mean, I've got Philips Hue lighting, right, in my house. Can I have that run on my HomePod and Lady A?
Exactly. And yes, by the way, for Philips Hue. And if it says matter, and this... Sean's going to give me crap about this, but in most cases, it's going to work great. Here's the new problem with Matter. Okay. Every few months, they come out with Matter 1.1, Matter 1.2, and it adds new things. And then the manufacturers like Google and Lady A and Apple, they need to go and implement that. So if a refrigerator is now allowed into Matter as a category, that's great, because Matter 1.3 says it's great and ready. But if Apple hasn't caught up to 1.3, or Google, which by the way, Google is really far behind, they're still back on Matter 1.0 if I'm not mistaken, doesn't implement it, then you're not in great shape.
I did not realize that. Right, so it's actually up to the manufacturer.
Yep.
And it's also up to the provider of the smart side of it to actually to implement all of this.
So that's the new frustration, is getting those people to, getting the manufacturers who are
what's
part
wrong with
of
just
the
turning
Matter
a light
Alliance.
on and off with a switch? I mean, remember those days? It was easy. Remember
I
those
love
days?
buttons. Have I said that before?
Buttons of the future.
Everything I have, I want to have a button too, in case the internet goes down. Right, I want to make sure I can turn those lights on with the button.
There might be a geek in the house, like maybe us in the house, and we want our home to be smart. And then you have the family, who just don't. They just like, I just want to have the light on. Can we please just have a situation where I can just have a light that turns on?
No. Stop it. We're not cavemen. Come on now.
Exactly. Or what's worse, actually, there's something worse than that, which is because in the hall upstairs and downstairs, we've got the smart lights. So we've got Philips Hue in there. And there's a motion sensor upstairs and downstairs, so that when my wife or I come in the house, the lights automatically come on, which is brilliant. The problem is now she loves it, and if it ever fails, it's one of the few things I have to fix like instantly.
Yep. Because
it's like, why is this not working? You get used to that.
Yes.
And of course, the challenge is what happens when it fails. So you got to think about all that.
Home Assistant. That's what you want to do. Implement that. Raspberry Pi. Oh,
Oh,
build
now
your
you're
own
talking. Now you're getting into a
supercomputer.
whole new world of pain.
I haven't even gotten there yet. So, but
No.
one
I want
day.
to talk about ARM computers because this is another thing. I have not heard great things, Greg. And I want to know what your take is on this.
Shout at him now, Greg, not
I've
me.
got shout at him. Good. For your visual people, I've got a
Visual people?
people that can actually see the camera, unlike
How
any of
dare
the
you.
three of us.
Yes.
I'm holding up a Dell Latitude 7455.
Okay.
Which I guess they're not going to call it Latitude anymore because
Nope.
at CES they took away all the brands within Dell. So it's the Dell,
Dell Pro,
7455.
Dell Pro Max.
Yeah, Pro Max. Right.
Why? I don't know. That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Pro
Anyway.
Max Plus. Yes, carry on.
It is a ARM, the new what is it? X Elite, Qualcomm X Elite ARM
Snapdragon,
system.
yeah.
Snapdragon. There you go. And I just got that this year, so it's one of the new ones. And what do they call it? Anyway, so I just got this
AI
year.
PC, right?
An
This
AI
is-
PC, right?
Yes.
And I find it great. The pros are great battery life, all day battery life, which most Windows PCs will not do, or laptops won't really do.
No.
Yeah. Not as good as your Apple devices. They've still got better battery life. But this is, if I can go all day, I'm pretty happy. And again, with Windows, I never could. And because it's ARM, which is, similar to what Apple has, it's efficient. The battery life is great and it's fast. And so I find this thing to be great. There are, those are the pros. It's also light. It's this computer is a nice light one. It's about, and Microsoft has a flavor of this. Lenovo has a flavor of this. So you can have choice, which is not so true in the Apple world, right? You can
The
either get
Lenovo
it.
one, the Lenovo one is really nice. I got hands on with that somewhere at a store, and
Did
I
you?
was, I was so I nearly bought it on the spot because I thought I really like this machine, and thankfully, and my wife appreciated this, and my credit card appreciated. They didn't have any in stock, so that was it. Otherwise, I'd have had one.
You had one. So it's the con.
Cons.
Okay, the
Thank you.
con is that old systems that were built for x86, which is Intel Windows, don't always work great. They can be slow and or not work.
Not at all. Yeah.
But
But hang on. What does that mean? So if you have an app like that, I'm thinking about the one we use, Shaun, Audacity. Would that be one of those apps?
I've never tried Audacity, but let's say Audacity was built for, again, it's called x86, right?
I was asking Shaun if it was x86, but he completely ignored me. So
Well, Greg was so ready for an app. Well, I'm desperately trying to think. Yes, it is an x86 architecture app, but I don't know if they do one for ARM. Actually, I'm not entirely
I don't think they
sure.
do. So what does that mean? Does that mean that wouldn't work at all?
No, it means that it's going to run in emulation mode, which oftentimes is great. I've got several things working in emulation mode, and it works just wonderfully. I wonder if it will work great, if Audacity will, because the audio and so forth like that.
Yeah.
But, and so
Wasn't great on a VM. Using it on a virtual machine on the
told me
Mac,
that,
it was not
right.
brilliant.
Yeah. And so, and it's a VM that's running ultimately on an ARM computer, right? You're running it on your Windows. I'm sorry, on your Apple,
Yeah.
which is running Windows in ARM. So maybe that one won't. And, so the good news is it works great with modern applications. Bad news is older applications and Audacity might be considered that. And if they haven't come up with an ARM version, it might not work beautifully. It will work in most cases though. It's not a gaming machine. Not that I care.
Right, Greg,
yes.
let me stop you right now. Pro list, very good. But that con is a big con,
It is,
isn't it?
Sure. But what do you use? Well, okay. You use Audacity. Right. Okay. So
No,
you guys are
Reaper
you guys
coming
are,
soon.
Yes.
Yeah, Reaper, I'm sure probably has an ARM version. Audacity, maybe not. And yeah, that is a con. If you've got things that are older, that's a problem. Well, I use the Office suite, Adobe products, Internet. Well, not Internet Explorer. Sorry, Edge or
Netscape
Chrome.
Navigator.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Edge or Chrome.
Opera.
ICQ, Send Messenger.
I'm guessing the bulk of your audience isn't using Audacity, right? Some of them are.
No.
I've heard.
Yeah.
But older applications might not be a problem for most people. Even you,
It's
Shaun,
very true.
aren't you using a Surface?
Stop it. Yes, I am using a Surface.
Okay.
Yes.
You can't run Audacity on it, great, but doesn't your Surface work nicely?
How dare you? Audacity runs better on my Surface than anything else.
Oh.
It is an x86 based.
It's not an ARM, though.
Okay,
Sean, it's
then
not an
all
ARM
that,
one.
everything we just talked about goes out the window
Yeah.
for Audacity. It would work great on this machine if it works on yours, because yours is an even older version of
Mine
Qualcomm
is
chip.
no, it's not. Mine's running an Intel chip. It's a Core chip.
Oh, fine.
Core 7.
Okay, fine.
I will not go ARM just yet. Now, look, you make a perfectly valid point, because a lot of the people aren't going to be running old legacy software, right? And most of the time we're running whatever Windows comes with, Edge or Outlook and some other web services usually. So most people probably won't notice a difference. But I think it's just a bit of a disappointment, because we were so blown away by the way Apple did the transition to ARM. They did a fantastic job. And the biggest point of that is their emulation, the way they do handle that older software, and it runs so well. And we were expecting similar things from the Snapdragon, and it was overblown. The Microsoft emulation doesn't work as well. Now, as you mentioned, that might not matter for older software. Who cares? But when it comes to assistive software, such as Zoom Text, for example, we're only now seeing the release of the ARM version, aren't we? Has it been released, or is it coming
out
very
this year.
soon?
That's right. JAWS has been running on it for a long time.
Yes,
and so is NVDA.
And those work fine.
Yeah, and they work beautifully. But you're right. Zoom Text, not so much. And going back to your Apple argument, and you're right. Apple did a wonderful job. Right? They have a nice emulator. But when the M1 first came out, there were things that weren't working great in that either.
But there's a difference. I'm sorry, I've got to jump into this because I can't hold back. There's a difference between the two companies, and I think there's a stark difference in that Apple were moving forward with silicon.
Yes.
Whereas Microsoft don't feel like they're moving forward. It seems like an alternative to the Intel and the x86 architecture that exists. Because Microsoft have this legacy that they seem to want to continue with and not move away from. That this is how, when it came to Apple, developers bought in because they knew this was where it was going. There was no other route.
Yep. No, you're so right. And that's, as I said, in the beginning, it wasn't they didn't all work right away. But because they knew that they had, if they wanted to continue working on Apple, they had to make a change if it wasn't working well in emulation. Or even if it was, if they wanted to be even faster, they had to make that change. And that's the great thing about Apple. And that ecosystem is, they have... They get
just bully us all to say, right, you're doing this now.
If you want to be on our system, you're going to use this. Whereas Microsoft forever has been saying, well, we want to run those legacy things. I think ARM is, if you want to move on to the future, then get an ARM computer, and you don't have one of those old applications, then get the ARM computer, because it's going to run faster. It's going to be more efficient.
There are going to be applications, though, for blind people that will, I think immediately thinking about Kurzweil 1000, those who still rely on
just
software
thinking
like that.
about that. Yeah, exactly.
This is the kind of
that?
application. How old is that? How many updates does that get? It's not going to have an ARM version.
But it doesn't mean it won't work. I know you don't think the emulator works at all, but it actually is not.
It might actually be okay.
It actually works in most cases. I have things that are old that are running on this because I end up having to connect this to my work domain. And so they have things that are automatically installed on every computer when we attach it to the work. And lots of them, are x86, the old style. And they work just fine. So the bulk of things work great. There are some things that don't. And I think the bulk of, when you watch reviews, there are the people that do reviews on YouTube, for instance, are using, they're creators, right? And so they're trying to make all of their video and audio things work. And some of that doesn't work. Again, average Joe or Jane is going to be great with this because it works with most things.
I mean, look, let's be honest. If you want to be a creator, you can get a Mac. But anyway, moving on.
There you go.
So, that solves that problem,
I
right?
don't disagree, by the way. I love Macs.
Hang on.
I just wanted to say these ARM computers are nice.
Yeah. Well, on that, you do have an Intel-based or an x86-based computer as well, right?
Yep.
So, performance-wise, are you impressed or you're not?
Yes.
Okay, you're not
It is
happy,
faster.
unhappy.
In most cases, this is faster. The computer's lighter, and I can run it all day. So, what's bad about that? All of that's good.
Hang on. So, battery's good.
Yep.
One of the other issues I've had, and I don't know if it'll be the same on this, but I just seem to turn on. I've got a little Samsung Galaxy Book 3, which I really like. It's beautiful. It's light. It's running an Intel Ultra 7, I think it is. It's running. It's a really nice processor, one of the more recent ones, but it's not an ARM processor. It's one of the older ones. Mm-hmm. And, I could cook an egg on it just by going into a website. Right. And, the fans will just spin up, because it's Tuesday, and this is, I don't get it. And I hear a lot of people saying this. It's like, suddenly all my spans are spinning. That's not a good idea. Your fans are spinning.
Could have been worse. That's good.
And, suddenly for no reason at all, this is happening. And you think, what's going on? So I'm guessing you don't get any of that with this.
There are fans in this. And, if I'm using it for high intensity things, the fans might turn on.
Which makes sense.
Not very often. And it's similar to your Mac Pro, right? Your Mac Pro, if I'm not mistaken, has a fan in it just in case. Doesn't often turn on, just like your Mac Pro. You still have
only with AI, I only find it with onboard AI intense stuff. So if I'm doing a transcription of an audio file or something, that's when you really, because it's doing it locally, you'll really feel the machine come to life on that occasion. But that's it.
I don't burn my lap when I put this on my lap as a laptop. It's not. I can't fry an egg, as you just put it. It's it's all, again, Apple and Snapdragon. They're ARM-based things. They are faster. They're fast, efficient. And efficiency means good battery and less heat, right? So it's all good. And I think I heard you saying, as you price.
Yes,
the price is competitive, if not cheaper, in some cases than some of the Intel things. So if you're used to getting a Windows computer,
I want to buy one now.
Well, I hear Snapdragon are working on a generation 2.
Yeah, I think it's going to come next summer.
That's is that the is that the
it's the M2.
Yes. No, I was going to say, is it the I was going to say, is that the most obvious piece of news ever? Let's give it a new one. Really? Is there? Who'd have thought? I thought they would just stick with that one for 20 years.
No, I'm just telling you to hold your horses. Don't go out and buy one right now because I think they may have learned some lessons from this first one.
Well,
no doubt.
You say it's the first one, and in some ways it is. But again, I had an actual Surface Pro that was ARM-based.
RT, wasn't it?
Yeah, and it was...
It's dreadful.
No, not RT. No. Though it was about 2 years old, and it did a lot of things. But was it as fast as my x86 computer? No. But
hang on, are you talking about the Surface X? Because there was that one. Yeah. I remember it was the first ARM
Surface
processor.
X Pro. Yeah, I had one of those for a while.
And I remember asking Microsoft if I could get one to review, and I was told, you might want to hold off. And I thought, wow, if they won't even send me one because it's not worth the bother, that says a lot.
Wait, isn't that strange though? See, I thought the big hoo-ha-ha over the Snapdragon was the collaboration between Microsoft and Qualcomm about how they were doing this.
Yes.
But I mean, if Microsoft couldn't do it on their own products back in the RT days, I don't know what's changed other than they do recognize that they are losing out to ARM processors.
RT was Intel, if I'm not mistaken, and that was 10 years ago, and it was horrible, right? But it was ARM-like.
It was ARM.
Yeah, but it was the Surface Pro X that I'm talking about from a couple of years ago was Qualcomm, but it wasn't the what do we call it? The AI PC.
No.
It was good, but it wasn't great. Now now with this new one that came out this year, we're in the great realm.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, right, because all of those, be it Intel or Qualcomm, they're all RISC processors, ARM processors.
Sure.
Is the problem here the actual hardware, or is it Windows itself? Is it Microsoft not willing to gouge out the guts of Windows and make this work?
It might have been a combination of both, but I will tell you, this year, Intel and was
AMD?
AMD are behind Qualcomm.
Yes.
And they are behind. Microsoft actually gave Snapdragon or Qualcomm a push. They allowed these PCs out first and made the AI functions that came out this year within Windows. They gave it first to Qualcomm. So there's actually a huge push, it seems, within Microsoft to work because they've been asking Intel for years to make something good,
Yes.
like this. And they came out with RT,
yes.
right?
Yeah.
And so these days, this year, Microsoft, I think, has been more collaborative with Qualcomm than they have been with Intel, or at least and they
Listen, I remember the days of the Intel Celeron PC, which was, the PC you bought because you couldn't afford
anything else.
Or, these days, I guess the equivalent of that is MediaTek. Whenever I see that inside a computer, I think, well, you may as well just take the money you're spending and throw it straight down the drain.
Unbelievable. Okay. I thought you were going to say an i3, a Core 3, but no.
Well, I mean, look, if you had a choice, if you have...
Do you remember the atoms and the ions?
Oh my God, they were terrible. That was the netbook one, wasn't it? The Atom.
Yeah,
Intel
never
Atom.
Powerful enough. No matter how much you thought, the most powerful Atom processor.
I just often felt with Intel, it was like they went into a room and said, "How can we make what we do really bad? Okay, let's call it something like Atom. Excellent, sell that off."
Yeah.
I didn't understand it because they were unusable. I remember the whole thing. I remember way back when netbooks came along and we were testing them out for screen readers, and it was just dreadful. Narrator didn't work on it. I mean, that's worked, but terrible.
Narrator didn't work anyway. I mean, feature wise,
story. Yeah, but you couldn't even hear it not working. That was the problem.
Well, it's good to know. I am slightly concerned that the only reason they're doing that is because of the AI push. Because as we all know, ARM processors are more tuned for AI processing. I think maybe they're just looking at AI and saying, "Yep, we're going to go with ARM," rather than let's sort out the emulation and make sure the older legacy software runs well as well, which Apple did.
And you're right. And I believe a new version of the emulation has come out even since this.
And maybe this is
happened.
the plan,
and
though.
It's getting better. So
maybe this is the plan. Maybe this is the break. Because look, I think they need to make a break with the past, but they have to also service the business, the industry. There are nuclear sites that run off Windows 3.1 and floppy disks. There are airplanes, trains services. There are lots of things.
What airplanes are running
Windows.
off 3.1 and floppy disks? Have you been on?
I don't know. Think of the cheapest airline you can think of that won't sue us. Can't think of one.
Leave it.
But I know there's trains that run Windows XP. I was actually sitting on a train once and I heard the Windows startup sound and it really freaked me out. And it was XP. So, there is a huge legacy and that is going to take a long time to work through. But maybe they're thinking if we draw a line in the sand with ARM, we can sort of move on. Because my thing is it's probably going to be the consumer. Business is going to be a different story. But it's the consumers that will get it essentially moved on to ARM first.
Right. Now, it's exactly because the businesses have the legacy things, but most consumers, I'll say, maybe not you two because you're using Audacity, but most consumers are using, can use the new things and work great. So I'm right in the same camp with you, Stephen. I think this was their departure. This is their way to say, okay, we're held down by having to do all this stuff to work with this legacy stuff, with legacy applications. If we go with ARM, we can move away from that. And if you still need the legacy, okay, look, we still have an x86 based one, or, that can run on your Intel or ARM computers.
So here's my next
enterprises can use that.
Here's my next thing. File Explorer. What's that about?
File Explorer is a beautiful thing.
No, it's true. How many buttons do you need to get from one file and folder to another? It is ridiculous.
And
there's something should be rewritten.
Apple has that all so much better.
Yeah, Finder.
I have no issues with my Finder. And it was because of a good friend of ours, Garth, who had taught me how to use the Finder properly. And I navigated no problem now.
I'll teach you how to use File Explorer.
Right. Somebody needs to teach you how to use File Explorer properly because it works great.
Well, between that and, you go into something there's like 8 billion options in there. Why? And I just wish you could just turn all that nonsense off and just have a simple File Explorer.
It is simple. How simple do you want it?
Well, look, I mean, so let's say, for example, I go to the
Please don't hold my feet
menu.
to the fire because I will fall over on this.
Yeah, I know. It's like you're gonna wish you'd never said that. So you go to the navigation menu. You would think you tab because you shift tabbed from, say, the list view into the navigation menu.
Yes.
So you go to another folder. Now, if you're lucky, it'll bounce you right into the list view. If not, God knows where you end up. I end up stuck in. I'm sort of deciding whether I want it named A to Z or Z to A. I'm like,
Gregg,
what am I doing here?
User error.
Yeah, exactly. But I also sympathize a little bit because a couple of years ago when they made the changes, I was just like you, having trouble finding things.
Because you ever do that cycle thing? You're just cycling around, and it's like trying to find a parking space at Christmas.
All you got to do is listen. You just got to listen out for tree view or navigation pane. And then one tab. I feel
that changes every 5 seconds as well.
Right, forget it. There's no helping you. Stay in AZ name split view. You stay there.
I'm stuck there just changing the order of my files all the time. I don't know what I'm doing. It's
tabbing
ridiculous. But listen, it's been great talking to you, Greg. Come back soon. We'll do more of this because I quite enjoy when you come and shout at us.
Well, thanks. It was lots of fun. Good to talk to you guys.
Anytime, Greg.
And that is it for another Double Tap today. Shaun, thank you as always. We're back tomorrow with lots more. We're going to be getting into more emails as well, so check all that out.
Yes.
And thanks to Greg for coming on. It's great to catch up with him as well. We'll catch you guys tomorrow.
Thank you. Bye-bye.